When someone pulls into your driveway, anything goes. I created Species Nutrition with one mission in mind: to provide bodybuilders and serious athletes with no-nonsense supplements that work. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution.
RX Television, RxMuscle.com. This is Ask Dave, your 30-minute question and answer show with Dave Palumbo. This is the Thanksgiving edition of Ask Dave. I'm not going to tell you the exact details yet, but we have some mega sales coming up on SpeciesNutrition.com. Tomorrow, Thanksgiving, Friday, Black Friday, and then Monday, Cyber Monday. We're going to have 3 different unique sales all running. So the sales will not roll over. They will be contained to its own day. So tomorrow it is a one-day sale. On Thanksgiving, Black Friday, one-day sale. Cyber Monday, one-day sale. SpeciesNutrition.com. The sale will start midnight. It'll be midnight to midnight. We will not leak it until later this evening, but we will be having sales on 3 days. Anyway, we're going to jump right into the questions. We have a lot to get to. And given the craziness of the holiday season, this is going to be a bit of an abbreviated edition of Ask Dave. But the first 2 questions on the show from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. First question: back in the 90s, when blood work was not so available as today, how did you guys know if your estrogen was too high or too low?
To be honest with you, and I'm being completely transparent, very few people did blood work back then. A lot of times we didn't even want to know. There was a guy by the name of Dr. Estrico. He was in, trying to think where he was. I think he was in like Brooklyn. And my friend hooked me up with this guy. It was a real pain in the neck to drive to this guy. But he was one of the very few guys who did blood work and even interpreted it. And he did a whole panel on me and everything like that. We went over, estrogen and all the liver enzymes and everything like that. And, I remember back then him, even him telling me, you better be careful, this blood work and watch this, watch that. And I was asking him for estrogen blockers and stuff like that. And he was one of the people telling me, look, he goes, your estrogen's not that high. You don't need to just, knee jerk take estrogen blockers if it's not that high. And, and he kind of gave me a rudimentary understanding of what was going on, but very few people did blood work back then on regularly. Then as we got to the late 90s, early 2000s, there was a guy, Dr. Barrett, may he rest in peace. He was on Long Island who would do some blood work. But you know what the truth was? We really didn't want to know. And it wasn't so readily available, like you said. So people kind of just had their head in the sand and no one knew. We didn't know what our blood sugars were because there was no, only diabetics had glucometers and stuff like that. So it was tough. And I pretty much went empirically. The term empirically means like kind of by observation. So I would observe, guys would come over to my house if they were very watery, even when they were dieting. I figured, well, their estrogen was probably high. So we put them just knee jerk on estrogen blockers. Arimidex had come out around then. Before that, we were just using Nolvadex. There really was no aromatase inhibitors. There was something called Teslac, but it was really expensive, So we didn't have the knowledge. That's why today we're so much better because you can test your blood sugar right in your house. You get the blood pressure cup, right in your house. There's no excuse today. Whereas back then, no one knew. But guys didn't use as much drugs back then, so probably there wasn't as many problems or potential problems. Let's put it that way. Even growth hormone. I mean, very few people used it, and if you used it, you used 2 IUs a day. there wasn't a lot of insulin resistance at 2 IUs a day. So I don't think the blood sugars were that bad. So, we got by, by observation, but much, much healthier today.
Second question, again, these first two from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. Excuse me. I'm confused about saturated fat. If it's healthy and carbs are the issue, does this mean cheese is good?
Let's not, confuse foods, because each food has more than one thing in it. Does cheese have a little saturated fat? Yeah, not a lot though. It's the problem with cheese is, is there's carbs in cheese, and it's dairy based, so there's a lot of times there's lactose. Now theoretically, some of the lactose should be fermented in the cheese, but it isn't. So cheese just is not a really good fat source. I like to use fat sources that have very little carbs in them. Avocados, certain nuts like almonds, walnuts are really good. That's or just oils like extra virgin olive oil, macadamia nut oil, avocado oil. Just cheese is just not good because of the dairy component. And dairy, we know, irritates the gut. It's a very well known fact. So that's why people get bloated after they eat like a big pizza pie and stuff like that. They eat too much cheese. So I'm just not a dairy fan. Like I said, the only dairy really that I allow on diets that I usually have people use on diets is a very good quality whey isolate. Because if you're using a high quality whey isolate, like my isolized protein, for instance, we've removed all the lactose. The dairy component is essentially gone, and what's left is the whey in its purest form. So it's not going to really bother people's stomach and irritate the gut like you would if you had lactose in there. That's why some of the whey concentrates, the blends, even some of the whey isolates that are not high quality isolates that have whey in there, it irritates people's gut. And how do we know? They get diarrhea and they get gas from it. And so you have to be careful of that. Now, off season, it doesn't matter as much, really. If you can digest cheese and it doesn't bother your stomach, then knock yourself out. But pre-contest, we try to eliminate those type of foods. These are two really good questions from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. Once again, holidays coming up, looking for a good stocking stuffer for $29 a month. You get Dave Palumbo in your pocket. You download the Dave Palumbo Experience app from the Android store, the iTunes store, and you get access to me. You can ask questions in an open forum. I answer everyone's questions, and give answers in an open type format where everyone can see them. So it's a learning experience. I do a Q&A video just like we're doing here. It's an extra Ask Dave every week for the app members. We put up a workout every week. All my videos I've ever done and writings are there. All my protocols, off-season, pre-contest cycles. It's a great, great way to learn what's going on in the industry and how to be a bodybuilder. So check it out. Thanks.
Let's go to Beard King. Beard King Lives. Love the name. Your opinion on running a bulk cycle at 1,000 mgs a test, 2 to 300 deca, 1 to 200 mgs a tren. May throw in some MK677 to increase appetite. Not too sure on the right dosing of MK. Can you shed some light, I guess, on all of the above?
Yeah, I mean, the cycle's pretty good. Off season, I usually stick with 2 compounds. Pre-contest, I go with 3 compounds. This is not a bad. It's a pretty potent cycle. I don't really think the MK is going to really do very much in terms. I know a lot of people think, oh, I can't afford to use GH. I'm going to use, a growth hormone releasing, peptide. And, if you're going to do that, usually the sermorelin is probably one of the better ones. As far as growth hormone release goes. Now, I know someone who uses those and tells me their fingers hurt, go numb, like if they take growth hormone. But most people don't get the same benefit. If you're going to do an anabolic cycle like that, and you really want to get maximum results, which it seems like this person is looking for, I would put at least 2 to 4 IUs of GH in there. So if you can't afford 4, do 2. 2 is still potent. Back in the day, that's all we did was 2 because we couldn't afford it anymore. And guess what? It worked really, really well. People say, oh, only 2 IUs. Guys are using 10 now. Well, yeah, maybe the stuff is not good. We used 2 IUs back in the day because we couldn't afford more. And I'm telling you, we grew like weeds on this stuff. So if you have real growth hormone, add it to that cycle you just said. Take 2 IUs in the morning when you wake up. I'm telling you, you're going to get really good results. I think that for bodybuilders looking for massive results, they're going to be greatly disappointed with the growth hormone releasing peptides. I think for people, for longevity purposes, people who are on HRT, I think it's great. I think sermorelin and some of the MKs, I think they're and even now they have hexarelin out again. I think that those are really good growth hormone releasers in the sense that you're going to feel good and you might recover a little better, but you're not going to get the benefits that you would get from taking a shot of GH. It's just impossible. And so getting back to what the original question was in the cycle, I really think that, you would benefit better from 2 IUs of GH, at least a day.
Obviously, a wild situation last night. Fouad Abiad posting 2 consecutive videos involving a situation at his home with these 2, I think maybe 2, maybe 3 men showing up to his home and confronting him, and him coming out with a baseball bat and punching them, and then there seemed to be in the second video an escalation of the conflict, and I guess what was not seen on camera, I guess the 2 were in an actual fist fight at that point.
Yeah.
Very wild situation. Fouad would later go on to show the context of what happened as far as the harassment that his wife in particular, had faced really over the last few years. Obviously, people are, asking what was your reaction to the 2 videos and then this whole situation involving Fouad Abiad?
Yeah, I unfortunately wasted my time and watched the videos. The videos didn't take that long. And then I watched Greg Doucette's response to it. It's kind of like, this is like teenager stuff, and I feel bad for Fouad because you know what, he gets himself wrapped up into these guys. I see he probably should have blocked this guy. I know he used to be friends with this guy Misha or something like that, and the guy became a little bit nuts with writing emails to him, and they were going back and forth, and supposedly they were friends before that. And I don't know what happened with all the details, and I'm sure only the 2 of them really know what went wrong, but obviously the friendship went wrong at some point. Why this guy kept harassing him, I don't know. Fouad should have just, like, I literally blocked him and just never responded to him. That would have solved the problem, but obviously it didn't. It escalated. Fouad's like, like any guy, he's not afraid of these guys. He's like, you know what, if you're going to threaten me, come threaten me, Now, here's the problem. When you go to someone else's house, when you show up at their house, first of all, when their family's involved too, Fouad's number one responsibility is, you're not fucking with my family. You're not coming on my property. That's for sure. Or I'm going to kill you, And probably if he was in Florida, Fouad could have pulled the gun out and shot that guy. You don't pull into someone's driveway or walk into someone's driveway and expect to not be assaulted. I mean, like I said, in Florida, I think DeSantis would tell you, if someone comes into your driveway threatening you, shoot him, And he had every right to do that. Now, people could say, well, he told him to come over. Well, yeah, if the guy's dumb enough to come over and come into his driveway, into his property, then he's going to get his ass kicked. And so, I think Fouad was 100% right. Why not have a bat? He's not a guy who's going to try to fight someone. I mean, and you know what? The guy, I don't know what happened. It seems like they did scuffle, and, Fouad struck him first, and that's fine. He's on Fouad's property. I don't care if Fouad told him to come over or not. He didn't tell him to come over to talk. He said, come over if you want to, if you're really, interested in settling this like a man, So, I mean, Fouad had every right to just attack him if he wanted to. Get off his, it doesn't matter who's right or wrong. If you go on someone's property, you're asking for trouble, okay? Especially if you're going there with bad intentions. He wasn't going there with good intentions. He was going there with bad intentions. And everyone knew that. So, don't blame Fouad for that. I completely back what he did. His wife's there. You're coming and threatening my family? I'm going to kill you. That's the bottom line. Don't go on other people's property. It's a different story if they confronted each other in a supermarket or in a neutral place. Then Fouad doesn't have the right to put his hands on him. Then they could either talk it out or they can walk away from each other. You don't go to a man's house and invade his space, okay? Because that's illegal. And so that's the end of it. But like I said, Fouad probably should have just ignored this guy on all these messages and never even responded to him, because obviously the guy, there's something, not right about him. And maybe he's trying to make a statement or try to personally challenge Fouad because he knows Fouad's got a lot of money. He has a successful business and he can make a name for himself. I don't know if that was the intention or not. I don't really care. It doesn't matter. But don't go on a guy's property and then wonder why the guy hit you or struck you. You're lucky he didn't do worse than that to you. And that's just how I feel about it. Now, whether who's right and wrong doesn't matter. As soon as you go into someone else's property, you're wrong.
Why would I do? Sorry about that. We'll take
Yeah.
one more quick question from Bilal Hamide. After having my colonoscopy done, I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. Would drinking protein be a primary cause for this? And should I discontinue my whey, or it could be something else from something else?
So if you have ulcerative colitis, real ulcerative colitis, we're not talking about like a colitis. We're talking about ulcerative colitis is a autoimmune disease where your immune system attacks your part of your colon. So that's not being caused by any food you've eaten or any action you've taken. It's theoretically genetic. It probably runs in your family. And there are certain foods that could be triggers to kick it off and make it become active, but those foods are not what's causing the ulcerative colitis. It's an issue you have. So you got to kind of do like an elimination test and figure out what foods are good for you and what foods are not good for you. Like a lot of people with ulcerative colitis do very well with like Fiberlize. Some of them can drink really good quality whey isolates that have no lactose. Lactose is usually something that kicks it off. So I know a lot of people who have ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease have no problem with my isolized protein. Sometimes people with these issues can't drink protein shakes at all. They bother them. But it's usually just when the disease flares its head, because you can have flare-ups and then you can have calm downs. Obviously, taking a good probiotic would be really important. Maybe try Protolize or just try like Natron's probiotics. They have the Bifidophilus and the Megadophilus and the Bifidofactor. Those are two good ones. So you have to there's a million things to do to try to fix a flare-up of ulcerative colitis, but more than likely it wasn't caused by something you ate, unless that's what kicked it in. But you're seeming like you're asking me if that's what caused ulcerative colitis, and that's no.
That's going to do for this abbreviated Thanksgiving edition of Ask Dave. Again, Species Nutrition, tomorrow Thanksgiving, 1-day sale, Black Friday, 1-day sale, and Cyber Monday, 1-day sale. The sales will begin technically, I guess, tonight at midnight U.S. Eastern Standard Time. So again, check it out, speciesnutrition.com. We're going to have 3 mega sales over the course of the next 4 days. Your chance to stock up over the course of the next months and really, really take advantage of some big time savings at speciesnutrition.com. If you haven't already done so, subscribe below, hit the notification bell. If you like what you're watching, hit the like button, comment below. And as always, we appreciate all of your support, and we wish you and all your families a happy Thanksgiving. Hope you enjoy it with loved ones. Hope you have some great food. And of course, we'll be watching football over the course of the next few days. For Dave Palumbo, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We'll see you next time.